Gentlemen, friends beyond the binary, welcome to Step Back Tonight, the evening show that I do with all of y'all where we talk about stuff, we chill, and sometimes play a few games if, we're feeling up to it. I still love this new mug. For anybody that's the first time here, my name is Tristan Johnson. I'm the host of the YouTube channel Step Back History, and I have a streaming schedule. I stream 3 days a week. All of this is going to be Eastern Standard Time, just so you know. I stream the Monday Discourse on Mondays from 12 to 2, a stream I do with Mia Mulder where we talk about stuff going on the internet, take a few questions, and, generally do fun stuff. Tuesday nights, which is what you're watching right now, from 7 to 10, we got Step Back Tonight, which is a show where I chill out a little bit, hang out with the audience, and, we just relax. We try to be chill. We try to be chill and Step Back Tonight. Sometimes I'm hoping that maybe I can get some guests to join me and hang out for a bit, but we'll see. We'll see where that goes. And then on Fridays, I do a stream called The Reactor where people submit stuff to me. They submit content for me to look at and react to. That's at 2 o'clock. It goes till 5 on Fridays. I go by he, him pronouns, and my work can be found at stepbackhistory.com or TristanPEJ on Twitter. Or, if you want to check out my second channel, you can check out Tristan Won't Shut Up on YouTube, which is where I'm making new content. I actually am editing a video for that right now, trying to get that out for Thursday. If you are on watching this on Twitch right now, and you have Amazon Prime, I just want to mention to you that people who have Amazon Prime can use their Prime membership to get one free Prime subscription per month that you, like I said, it comes with your Amazon Prime subscription. So if you, got it to watch The Boys or whatever, you can also use it to help one independent creator on Twitch per month. And if you choose Step Back History, you're helping me, feed cats and pay rent at no extra cost to you. So if you do that, much appreciated. You're keeping the lights on here. And lastly, if you want to check out my latest video, it is on Tristan Won't Shut Up. It's about Chernobyl, or specifically it's about the United States' handling of coronavirus, and how I think it's actually fairly similar to Chernobyl, in the sense that Chernobyl destroyed the USSR in a lot of ways, or was the beginning of the end of the USSR, and that coronavirus very well may be for the United States. My next video, which should be coming out in a few days, it's something pretty interesting. I'm working on it right now. It's on it is on something called the Transition Integrity Project, where a group of experts used role-playing tabletop game techniques and sort of free-form role-playing to simulate several different scenarios of the 2020 election to see what might happen, what kind of things would ensure given different outcomes. And some of them were pretty damn dark, and so I go into them. It's pretty fun. So for all of you folks who like alternate history stuff, this is kind of alternate near future stuff, and because it's near future, there's probably some actual thing. Obviously nothing will exactly happen, but something for something in that vein could happen. So it's definitely something to keep eyes on. So I'm going through chewing through everything right now. It's going to be a pretty long video. Anyways, that's all I've got on my my opening spiel. Sorry I was a little bit late. I was having dinner and watching TV and such. And the episode of Enterprise ran late. Okay, so let's see. Dab, of course. First year I'm turning into as I drive. Seen a few vids in the past I enjoy here. Thanks for the good old left adjacent content. Well, thank you, Jonathan Simon. I'm glad you enjoy it. What if Project Valkyrie had killed Hitler with that bomb? Good question. I don't know. I don't know if, like, how much... Because, like, I don't remember when Project Valkyrie happened, because I'm not really a World War II guy. I don't really know a whole lot about it, but, So Project Valkyrie was, like, an attempt to assassinate Hitler, by, like, you know, certain forces within the party. So it makes me think that World War II probably would have kept going in some capacity, although Hitler's cult of personality is actually quite tightly intertwined with the war effort, so I'm not exactly sure. That actually could be a case where you might have been able to end the year early, but who knows? Goddamn. You realize that like that something as small as that could have been like a massive change in the history of the world. Well, one guy's assassination. It's bananas. Thank you, Praxis Shop, for following. Much appreciated. If Hitler died halfway through the war, do you think the Nazi leadership would have tried to cover it up? That is possible. They might have just pretended he was still alive. Because, yeah, I don't know if anyone's got some, like, I don't know if anyone's got any, like, strong ability to sort of, like, who's the eventual successor to Hitler for, like, the short amount of time after Hitler died but before the war was over? It was, like, Dönitz, whose job was basically just to hand the surrender to the Allies. I don't imagine that he would probably be the choice if this happened in the middle of the war, but I don't think anybody had the kind of cult of personality built up to really succeed Hitler. That's the thing. So shit could have gone down. Shit could have been really chaotic, and it could have basically crippled the war effort pretty fast. Oh, we have some troublemakers. Okay, well, that's life, isn't it? I'm surprised that they're still going. I found out what happened. So yesterday we got like a big, like we had a lot of, in the YouTube chat, we got a bunch of Nazis and like alt-right people who got real mad that that's, I don't know, for some reason, basically doing a bunch of anti-Semitic shit. Anyways, I found out that, and I'm trying to figure out what the like source of this is, but it seems that the thing that they used to find my channel was that was my South Africa, Brief History of South Africa video, and it was traffic from the like social media, or not social media, but like the messaging app Telegram, which I don't know that much about, except isn't Telegram that like very not Signal is the one that's really encoded. So I don't know what Telegram actually is, or anything about it, but somehow I got a bunch of traffic on my South Africa video from Telegram. I got a bunch of very racist comments on that video in a very short amount of time, and it happened to have happened while I was streaming, so a lot of people came in and started being dinguses. If anyone knows what Telegram's all about, it'd be interesting to know. Hello, how are you? Hello, Mitch. Doing well. Keeping a nice, cool, chill vibe tonight with some, what's this? This playlist is called Lo-Fi Hip-Hop Music Beats to Relax and Study To. The classic. Very nice. I mean, and I'm still enjoying the shit out of this mug. I bought this mug over the weekend, and I really love it. I love the look of it, and I think it's such a cool design. Okay. The other day, I watched a video where a left-wing trans woman talked about her experience of living and working in communal homeless shelter. She claimed it didn't really work because the homeless people were too distrustful to go along with the mutual aid principles you need to get socialism to work. She said that until we deal with that fact, we're socialized to be selfish and distrustful socialism won't work. Respond to that. I mean, I don't know who this person is, but they're not wrong. We definitely are going to have trouble switching to a socialist, mutual aid-based way of running things if we're still being socialized and growing up in a capitalist economy. It's always, we're always going to be sort of guided towards selfishness and cruelty as long as we, grow up in a capitalist world. And I should say apathy, not cruelty, but cruel nonetheless. And so, yeah, that's going to be a thing, especially people who have been fucked over the most by capitalism, like homeless people. People who are experiencing homelessness, I should say. And so I can completely see that situation happening. And, yeah, mutual aid being a big project. There's a really great book I'm reading right now called The Dispossessed that came out in like the 70s, and it is about an anarchist society, and the anarchist society has like the reason that they're able to be so successful is because they literally, like, everything down to like their language is hey Divigi Games, thank you for following, welcome to the Orc Gang. That like people are always like people on this planet that are like anarchists grow up in a world that literally has a language that doesn't have like possessive verbs and stuff like that, and actually has like a taboo against using possessive language. So like it's actually considered extremely rude to what's called egoize, and that means things like referring to an object as like my mug, my water bottle. Instead, they would say, this is the mug I use, this is the water bottle I use. And I thought that was really cool. And so that kind of stuff. It's a pretty sweet book. And it's by who, like, you ever run into like an author that that you really click with and you're like, man, like, it's as if we're having a conversation across decades or, possibly across centuries, and that you, like, really understand a person. You really click with them in a way. And I'm starting to have that a little bit with Ursula K. Le Guin. She's quite a genius author. It's really tragic that she passed away only, like, 2 years ago. And then I didn't get to, like, see her speak or anything like that. I missed out. I really should have read Ursula K. Le Guin when I was younger. I wanted to ask you this since we were talking about Kamala Khan last week. I wanted to ask if you've heard of Snowguard. She's an Inuit superhero introduced in Champions. I think I might have heard about her, but I'm not sure. I honestly don't read that much comics. I went through like one phase briefly around like 2015 or so, but I got over it pretty fast. It's not a hobby that... It's one of those hobbies that, like, it's hard to keep, like, for example, I think, like, there's the typical problem that people have with comic books, which is that in order to follow a series, you have to know a lot of backstory or else you're going to get lost. But even then, they make clean breaks, and when you read a clean break of a comic, it's still, like, a situation where what people will tell you is that, like, certain trade paperbacks are good while some are bad, and, like, you can't really, like, figure out whether or not you're in a good story until it's already happened. And because it's, like, art and stuff like that, it's all, like, you probably prefer to get it in a physical medium. Although I did like using Comixology. But I found that, like, I wasn't, like, wowed as much by the art as I would, as, like, somebody who would really get into comics would like. And so I found myself just, like, quickly reading the books to get the story, which I feel like was, a bit expensive for what I was getting, because you can read through a comic in like 20 minutes if you really want to. Hey, Nuclear Bacon 42, thank you for following. Welcome to the Orc Gang. So there's that. Hey, it's Matt, the chat's police officer. Oh my. What do you think of the Democratic Convention? I have not been watching it, and I feel like it's been really good for my mental health, because the more things I see from it, the more sad and pathetic it gets. You know, the fact that they haven't gotten AOC to have a good prominent speaking spot, but John Kasich, they did. They just had the Native American conference that was chaired by Elizabeth Warren, and I was like, oh, geez. Oh, beans, are you really doing this? So, yeah. Ugh. Do you think you will react to the new oversimplified vid? I mean, if someone submits it, maybe, but I don't know. What do you think about the year 2020 so far? Oh boy, been a real ride. I've not been having the best of time, obviously. I think I've been having like a much better experience than a lot of other people. I've been very lucky. My life has changed, not that much, but man, like, just watching all the chaos and having all of my travel plans disappear and having to hide, inside for such a long period of time. We were for a while, and now I'm anticipating that it's going to get even worse, because in a couple weeks, the kids go back to school, and it's going to get flare up all over again. So I don't like that. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like how the pandemic is destroying the world. And it's really easy to become depressed in this type of situation. So I'm trying to keep my hopes up, and hopefully keep your guys' hopes up too. Although, like, I cover like the most horrible, depressing shit that imaginable. So I guess I'm not really helping in that case, but I'm trying my best to entertain everybody while we're going through this all together. We're kind of out of the phase where it feels like a weird camping trip, and now it's like life. This is just life now. Life just has a coronavirus in it. You just wear a mask when you go outside now. At least you should. Do it. What am I drinking? This is water. I had a cup of oat milk in this cup a little bit earlier, so it tastes very faintly of oat milk, but it's just water. What will the S&P... But will the S&P close higher tomorrow? Yeah, for fucking sake. Anarchists often talk about community-based alternative to policing. While I do think it makes sense, wouldn't localized institution of power, even unarmed, escalation-free ones, constitute a legalized monopoly on power and hierarchy to some degree, becoming somewhat similar to a state? I mean, there is like, all right, so there is something to be said about like institutions to an extent that have no checks on their power will, just by nature of like mission creep, become larger and more bureaucratic and more centralized organizations. And an anarchist society, an anarchist way of handling, like, not so much law and order, that's not really the words to use, but like anarchist way of managing community safety and stuff like that could, like, if it was managed poorly, could definitely end up becoming like a sort of proto-state, and that is definitely something to look out for. It's why in those kinds of situations you would need to organize them internally to be decentralized, and to be like for really there not to be any way for them to increase their power and increase their influence. So you'd have to do something like community watches, or something where they are doing the thing that they are doing at the consent of the people that they are doing it for. Therefore, they keep communities safe only in communities that accept them in there. And knowing that they can have that revoked at any moment is sort of a thing. But if they had violence. But I think that one of the number one things about an anarchist society is that I think there would probably be, you'd have to try and minimize and distribute the capacity to inflict violence on others to the point where nobody would be able to, rally people in such a way. And of course, it would take a big difference in our thinking, but it's a different thing. And I do think that definitely having a monopoly of power and hierarchy is something that, if it needs to exist, which is not necessary, it doesn't necessarily need to exist, but if it does need to exist, that it should be kept to the absolute minimum possible. Anarchists aren't against, anarchism at its core belief structure is not against rules, and it's not even necessarily against hierarchy. I mean, it is what it is that it is it assumes that that hierarchy has a burden of proof to justify its own existence, and that if it can't be justified, if it can't be done through an alternative way, then it needs to be replaced with something that is less hierarchical, more horizontal, and more consensual. But for example, the case is one example of a case of using coercion and hierarchy is pulling a child out of the way of a car because they don't know that walking into the street is a bad thing. Join an org and help your fellow workers. That is a good thing. That is good advice. So, grabbing, pulling a kid who's about to get hit by a car out of the street is a form of coercion. It is a form of hierarchy. But I think that most anarchists, or anybody who has any, basic common sense, would know that that's a pretty justified hierarchy. But, for example, policing. Policing is a form of coercion and hierarchy that involves a lot of vertical organizational structure and a lot of use of violence that I think we could have a lot of the things that we do stripping away a lot of it. One way to do that is to distribute powers a lot, to make sure that nobody is holding a monopoly, that things like that are maintained in some capacity. One thing I could think of off the top of my head, although it's not the best solution, I imagine there's better solutions out there, is that police should probably never be completely unchecked in a region. I hope that there should be no police, but if there's community guard or something like that, if that's necessary, which I don't necessarily think it is, I think that there are ways to handle community safety that don't involve having armed or people with a license to use violence. But if they were checked by some other form of force, for example. Okay. I put that video in the reactors just so you know. It's a response to Vosh in the title, but it's really just the host sharing her thoughts on socialism with responding to Vosh like a framing device. What is this, a video on what channel? Is anarcho-monarchism possible? I mean, I would hope not. There's if there was some form of anarchist monarchy, I would be confused as to what, unless it was just a monarchy in symbols only that happened to be an anarchist society that just happened to having an old lady with corgis to gawk at in the newspapers or something, but I don't think that that's desirable, and I think that still creates an air of hierarchy in culture that would create a reproducing cultural element that implements hierarchy. So. All right. Do you get Sarah Zetting on? She's streaming right now. I don't know if I can get her right this second. I would probably have to arrange something beforehand. But she's been on this stream before. I could probably get her again. She was in the Chop for a bit, so maybe there'd be someone to talk to about stuff, because she's moved to Portland since I last talked to her. Not Portland, Seattle. Wasn't there a Captain Canada? Yeah, there was a superhero by the name of Captain Canuck for a bit, but it was sort of a gag. And then they tried to bring it back semi-seriously, like maybe about a decade ago, and I don't know where that went from there. Is Belarus a Soviet rump state? Behind the Bastards did an episode about Alexander Lushenko today, and it's kind of the impression they give of Belarus. I don't exactly know what a rump state is, but there is definitely like a Soviet, like the shadow of the Soviet Union definitely looms heavily over, Belarus. That is for sure. Perfectly balanced as all things should be. Marvel has a whole team. Oh yeah, Alpha Flight. Snowguard is named and inspired in part by Alpha Flight member Snowbird, who's problematic. Okay. Well. Let's see. Thought it was the army who wanted Hitler dead, not members of the party. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Can we oh gosh. These are the guys he kicked out. Okay. Who's the bigger legend, Jack Churchill or Stuart Christie? I don't know who either of those people are. Where do you stand more generally on counterfactuals? I generally find them a bit of a pain, and I've read I've read some very bad ones. Like, are you talking about like counterfactual history work? I would argue that counterfactual history work, or like, you know, the literary genre of alternate history, can be fun. It's definitely it can be a fun genre of fiction when it's done right. I sense that when alternate history is done well, I think it's good, but for the most part, it's done fairly poorly, and because it has a bunch of authors who are way too invested in the setting, you know, the alternate history, but aren't as interested in, like, you know, telling a good story and having good characters and things like that. Very often they miss the point on that part of the experience. But talking through counterfactuals is an interesting intellectual project to do. It's something that you can do with history students as a way to get their imaginations rolling and get them thinking. I think that that's perfectly fine. I think that that's great. Like, because what it does is it gets you thinking about the consequences of different things and unexpected consequences of different things. And so I definitely think that that part is useful. As far as these simulations go, what I think makes them interesting is that they give different possibilities of what might happen. And what these simulations do is give an idea of the kinds of things to look out for during the election. Like, I'm going to talk about in the video that'll come out on Thursday, but like the simulation showed that a lot of, like, in a very close election, what might decide the election in a big way is who can bring out the largest protesters into the street and make the strongest media narrative that they are the rightful claimant of the presidency. That might make that is a big thing to bring up, because in several of the close situations it came down to that, and that, like, in many ways that, like, the presidency is, you know, there's a lot of Calvin ball involved, and that there's not really a lot of, like, set in rules things. There's never been a president who just refused to give up power before. So it'll be so they're talking through, like, what kinds of things might happen in that situation. That was useful. Tommy Robinson went to Telegram after he was kicked off Twitter. Is Telegram racist Twitter? Is that what it is? You've got haters. According to Taylor Swift, that's very important. Well, I'll take it. There's a speck of dust on your shirt and it's triggering my OCD. What? Oh, like this? I don't know. Tiny bit of curry. I had to rush here. I think if I had seen this, I would have changed my shirt, but sorry. Isn't Telegram pretty much a messaging app? That's what I thought. They always find people when they make videos about how South Africa is racist, actually. Okay. Fact speak. Most recently, the pathetic human lizard. The most... oh, boy. Yeah, we're having a fun time. Telegram is encrypted too, as far as I know, and often only used by weird groups all around the world. Some German conspiracy theorists built extremely anti-Semitic fascist filter bubbles on there. Fun. Who's the mug art from? So this is a, I think it's called Artisano. I have their card here. Yeah, Artisano. What it is it's a couple based out of Mexico City, or a couple from like Mexico City, who moved to London, Ontario, where I am now. And they've started a business where they buy folk art from Oaxaca, which is a state in central Mexico, and they sell it here for Canadians. And they had set up a little pop-up shop when I went to a brewery on the weekend. And they had this mug. And if anybody remembers from my Day of the Dead video, that this is a political cartoon from like 100 years ago or so, of a like upper-class Mexican woman depicted as a skeleton. And what it has become in like the years since, sort of this like symbol of the Day of the Dead, as sort of like a quintessential Mexican symbol. And she has a name, and the name I have forgotten. But I remember this image, and I was like, oh, I gotta get that because it looked really cool. There was also a skull and a skeleton, and I wanted to like spend way more money than I had to buy all of them, but I decided to settle on this one because I just love enamel mugs. Do you think the year 536 was the worst year ever, or the year 2020? I don't know what happened in the year 536. Why does everyone keep going on about that one poll only had Biden at a 4% lead? I've been checking 538 constantly, and it's clearly an outlier. Yeah, it has a small N number, but just any sign that Biden is slipping in the polls is not good. But yeah, that it is an outlier poll, definitely. The issue that came up to me was that the N number was pretty small. And also, it was a poll of battleground states. It wasn't a national poll. And that's what I think makes it a little bit more interesting to look at, because Biden might have a huge lead, but it might be in states that don't really matter in the Electoral College. But this is also an election where Texas is in play, and Texas is one of the battleground states, which means that, like, when you have a state as big as Texas as a battleground state for that many Electoral College votes, you like that is a huge, like the election could go in all sorts of directions. And also if this is the election that they've been promising for so many years, where Texas has finally turned purple, this has been like a long-term project that Texas will one day become a battleground state. And it looks like this election might just be the one. We'll see. A blue Texas would be a very weird turnout of this election, but things are still looking pretty good for Biden. But you'd think in a situation where the economy shrank 32% and there's a freaking pandemic that's being handled terribly, that the gap would be bigger, that it would be more of a one-sided election this year, but it surprisingly is not. Spent a good hour in the Discord server talking about Miles Morales and some of the other recent Marvel characters. Miles Morales is pretty cool. I like that movie. Yesterday I asked you about the idea of capitalists trying to make replicators pay for use. If that happened, do you think liberals and centrists would defend the company's right to do that? Yeah, they would. A lot of liberals say we need something like replicators to get socialism to work, but I suspect they might be keeping capitalism. Yeah, they would defend it for ideological reasons, for sure. Because, like, they have this whole ideology based around, like, certain people just don't deserve material necessities to live. And so they would definitely find a way to move that around. That's why fighting internalized capitalism patterns is so different. Things like personal value equals productivity. Or that you have to be good at things to a commercializable degree to be able to enjoy them. Yeah. Like, what's it called? Like, sort of like a late capitalism, 21st century millennial thing, is that everybody seems like they're being pressured to monetize their free time. Like, one of the reasons I think that every, like, white dude has a podcast these days is because, like, people have conversations with their friends, and the first thing they think is, oh man, I gotta find a way to turn this into money. I gotta start a podcast. And, like, one of the things that I, like, was on the road to doing was turning Dungeons and Dragons, my really big Dungeons and Dragons hobby, into you know, a way for me to monetize with, like, money and making stuff. But what I came to the board on is that I don't want it to be something that I spend money on, and I would rather, you know, make it just a thing I do for myself and my own creative output. That's my hope. But you just can't do that anymore, because yeah, if you can't justify everything you do, even when you're not working, has to be justifiable as a way for you to make money, and that's sad. It's sort of like hyper-capitalism. BreadTube is a useful tool to educate some people, but not everyone. Okay. Can you explain an anarchist economy and how it would be different to Karl Marx? It wouldn't have... I mean, Karl Marx's, like, end state of communism would be what I would call at least bordering on an anarchist society. The main thing is that an anarchist would have more emphasis on modularity and sort of interconnected federations, rather than having, like, a single monolithic state that sort of manages the economy. So it'd definitely be more focused on being smaller and more distributed. But, you know, anarchists come in a lot of flavors, and not all of them are communists. And so that might also be, you know, lead to different situations, because an anarchist society would probably have a lot more different types of governing and different types of social organization that would have to work together in extremely complicated systems in order to make it function right. So, you know, while a communist society might just have, like, the state that manages everything, you know, an anarchist society might have to deal with the fact that some regions do anarcho-syndicalism, some do a sort of more commune-focused organization, that some do, like, some are in some sort of mutualist, time banking-based, like, market, and that, like, a lot of different, like, and also there might just still be states that exist. And so anarchists definitely organize around the idea that there's not going to be, like, a one-size-fits-all solution to every single situation on Earth, and that it's much more that like an anarchist would be much more interested in like figuring out what works for the situation on hand and what's practical for what you're doing now, rather than like the theoretical perfect economy is sort of like what I think is like the big difference between Marxists and like, you know, anarchists, or at least anarcho-communists. Would anarchism even work? Is it a viable alternative to government? I think it is. We spent most of human existence not being governed. And even like the state as we know it today, as like an overarching figure that has like a very, very detailed investment in the day-to-day lives of people, is actually pretty new. And that I think that we could definitely that anarchist societies like organize themselves more in sort of the informal ways that we interact with each other, that don't involve the state and don't involve capitalism, don't involve the exchange of money. And I think that we could definitely have more of a society that runs through those manners. A language designed to promote anarchism. Make me worried I'm going to read this book and find out that Ian Banks ripped a whole lot of concepts from Le Guin. Maybe. I don't know. Le Guin wrote her books in like the 60s and 70s. I don't know when Ian Banks did. But I would say that there are way more like... I don't know anything about Ian Banks. But Le Guin's work is much less focused on linear plots and have a lot more like... it's a lot more of like circular and atemporous. Like, for example... the structure of The Dispossessed is that it switches between like the timeline of the book is actually kind of circular, because it's like the chapters interweave between telling two different stories. Both with the same main character, but one is about the main character growing up in an anarchist society and getting kind of frustrated in the him trying to develop this theory of time and physics that makes him frustrated with some of the requirements of physical labor of the anarchist society, that drives him to eventually like leave on a spaceship to go to a planet called Urus, and the planet called Urus has states and has capitalism and all that kind of stuff. And then the other plot that it's interweaved with is him arriving on Urus and living out his life as a professor, trying to rapidly develop this theory of time with like, you know, the state manipulating him and all this kind of stuff. And so like it's theoretically, it's at the same time telling two stories, and the one story takes place after the other one's already over. There's a lot of themes that have to do with gender and sexuality and like a lot of stuff that I'm like, oh man. Fucking Ursula Le Guin. Would it be possible to do left-wing shock therapy? Suppose this pandemic was happening while people like Bernie or AOC was in the White House. Would they take advantage of the crisis to get through a load of left-wing stuff? I think so. Yeah, if there was like a kind of like, because like that's what the shock doctrine's all about, is that like in times of crisis, whoever is in power will take all of the ideas lying around and will be able to kind of punctuate the period with a lot of big reforms in a small amount of time. And that very often results in what's called shock doctrine, which is, you know, just like a lot of things change. And if the ideas lying around are like socialist ideas, then yeah, you would totally see a bunch of big changes. Did you say Comixology? If so, you fucking rock. Been on there all night reading Invincible Sam and Twitch. I have a Comixology account, and I've read a few books on Comixology, but they're like maybe like back in like 2016 or 2015, I was much more into, it was definitely 2015 because it was before Kelly and I moved in with each other, that I was reading comic books that like I had like a few series that I was subscribed to, but then I was just like, as I said, I was just like not engrossed in the art as much as I should have been. Mia Mulder, good stuff. one of the problems with modern Marvels, they can't keep a consistent artist on their books, like even on their event books. Yeah, if I remember correctly, the things that I was reading, maybe I'll just go on my Comixology and see what I was reading. But one of the things that I was reading, I remembered, was Green Arrow, which is not Marvel. I don't think I read a lot of Marvel. I'm not like super into Marvel comics, but we'll see. See what kind of comics, because this is also like maybe like 6 months before I started Step Back, so there's that too. So this is me of a long time ago. Oh my, okay. 1 second. Let's try logging into my Amazon. That might solve things. Alright, my books. Let's see, what do I got here? Okay, so this is my... this was me on this, so all I got is Vox Machina Origins on this one. Maybe I need to go to the Amazon.ca. I think maybe I have an account that I like. I think I might have 2 accounts. Or no. Oh yeah, the archive. I forgot about the archive. Alright, this one. Oh, no. Nope, I have to get something else. I did read Vox Machina Origins, and I got the new one today. So I gotta, like, get the old one. Okay, let's see. Whatever. It's not worth it. Okay, let's see what's going on in the chat. Tips on not turning into a doomer, considering gestures at everything. I guess the thing I can say is that the world has gone through darker times than the one we're in now, and I would recommend that yeah, things suck, but there will be another side to it, some kind or another. Is it possible for an individual to be trans in our society but potentially not in another? Like I said, I sometimes wonder if a lot of people who come out and transition wouldn't if they lived in a society with less rigid gender norms. That's not really a question I can answer. Yesterday I asked you about the idea of capitalists trying to make replicators pay for use. What do you think, liberals? Yeah, we already answered that one. Let's see. Do anarchists have a security concept? I'm not sure what you mean by security concept, but like, I definitely, like, I don't know of any anarchists that would think like, man, like we really shouldn't have, what's it called? Like we shouldn't have things to deal with like murders, you know? I get a feeling that that like, you know, murders will still need to be solved, and there is still dealing with like violence and stuff like that. So like it's not like you're not going to need some form of people to take care of things. It's just that like for the most part that's not what the police do, and they haven't really through like all of like for our history. So I don't know why people would think that it does. I'm working on getting some stuff together here real quick. I think I might have gone into the Comixology thing. Yep. All right, let's see what I've got in my Comixology collection, since everyone wants to know my comics. I'm sure there's some people who are like, please don't do this, anything but this. Okay, come on. Site's being a little slow. So recently purchased the Overwatch comics, the Critical Role comics, It's in my library. Just those. Okay, what's my archive? All right. Let's see what I got here for titles of things that I was reading. There was A Force 2015. Whatever Abiding Perdition was. Aladdin, Legacy of the Lost something. Lots was free stuff. Amazing Spider-Man, Ant-Man. I did like Ant-Man. I read Ant-Man. I remember this. There was like a series where Ant-Man moves to Florida or something. That was one I read. Oh man, I had like no... And the Captain Canuck of 2015. I guess that's still going. Oh well. Alright. So a lot of these I have no memory of anymore. Yeah. Nope. I remembered I liked a lot more stuff that was like DC Convergence. Oh, yeah, the Convergence thing was going on. I remember that. And they were doing the Star Wars comics. Those weren't that great. And there was Doctor Who comics. I forgot about that. And then some like classics. Injustice. Oh, yeah. I remember that. I never played the video game Injustice, but the Injustice, the comic book series was fucking awesome. And then yeah, Miss Marvel, good shit. Overwatch. I remember back when Overwatch was what's it called? Relevant? God, those were the days. How old is that game now? It's pretty old, isn't it? Anyways, that's about it. Okay. Remember I told you Paul Mason had that bad take about how letting Hong Kong refugees might help labor? One of the reasons I got annoyed with him for saying that is exactly what right-wingers accuse us of secretly thinking when we advocate for letting in refugees and migrants. Am I wasting mental energy by worrying that right-wingers bad fair interpretations out of motives? I mean, I guess, because they're always going to assume the worst, but I still think that it's still a bad reason, and it just reeks of opportunism. All right. What should you substitute the police with? Definitely need to have, like, people who help people who are dealing with mental health crises. We need a lot more social workers and people who like take care of people who are in like families in crisis and things like that. Much more widespread mental health care, especially mental health facilities for people who are unable who have either who have mental illnesses that mean that they can't take care of themselves or that they might be dangerous around other people. Like, there's so many, like the problem with the way that our society runs is that it's politically disadvantageous to invest in any branch of society or any branch of, like, you know, civil society except for the military, which means that, like, things that, like, other aspects of that other things, like, you know, like psychologists and social workers would take care of, are moved on to the police, and that the police, with increasing, like, budgets, are given, like, completely pointless jobs to just justify their own existence. And so they end up, like, you know, enforcing parking measures and random crap like that instead of, like, you know, catching, like stopping crimes, because, like, they don't really stop crimes. They never really do. What should we say? So, like, I don't know, the police could be such a small role that, like, I honestly don't see the need of having, like, violent officers who have no other skill but to stop and detain and take people away. And if those people do need to exist, they would be in a very small and limited capacity. At least that's what I would think. Is discrimination against big people a thing? You mean like fat phobia? Totally. Yeah. Just try seeing a doctor for any medical issue when you're like a big person. All like, what's it called? It's only like very recently that like a trip to the doctor's office won't just be them treating you like shit the entire time. And like a lot of it is personalized in a way that it really doesn't make sense. And yeah. That shit can be really, really annoying. Thoughts about Bill Morneau stepping down today? I mean, he's obviously a scapegoat for Justin Trudeau, just like basically taking bribes from a charity for a no-bid contract. Like, so it's basically he's the fall guy for yet another incident of the Liberal Party being openly corrupt, but also like he kind of sucked anyway, so it's like fine with me. Like until about a month ago, I lived in Bill Morneau's riding, and I worked with the new Democratic candidate who tried to challenge him in 2019. It didn't work out, obviously, but the big thing that comes to my mind is that like Toronto Centre, which is like the smallest geographical size, the smallest by like geographic size riding in Canada, that was the riding I lived in, and when I lived there, like there's this long history of like it's a part of the city that is suffering. There's an opioid crisis, there's homelessness, there's extreme wealth inequality, there's a housing crisis, there's like all sorts of problems. But like the riding has just been like a place that liberals use to get their friends into MP position so that they can just like make their like cronies into ministers. And like it means that Toronto Centre has been like fucked over royally for like decades because it's just like this like liberal holdout, and that sucks. And you know, don't blame me. I voted for Brian Chang, but it did come home a little bit because I, you know, until like, you know, maybe like a month and a half ago, Bill Morneau was my MP. He can go fuck himself. And I just saw that Chrystia Freeland has just been made in the new finance minister. So to the people who this makes no sense to, so there's this whole scandal going on in Canada because Justin Trudeau Justin Trudeau and the Liberal federal government gave a no-bid contract to a non-profit. So what that means is that oftentimes when there is a contract, like when there's going to be a public-private partnership, i.e. when like the government is just going to contract a government to do something with money, very often it's a competitive process. By law, it's supposed to be a competitive process. You put out a call for paper or call for proposals or whatever, request for proposals, and different organizations have been like, what's it called? Have been put in place so like a lot of different, you know, situations show up. A lot of different like companies show up and bid over how much they're going to pay to do the thing. And then, you know, the government chooses one. But a no-bid contract means that they get a contract without having to compete with anybody else, which means they get to charge whatever they want. It's very lucrative, and it's very like, you know, those kinds of things always are filled with corruption. So it turns out that one of the companies that got one of these, it was a nonprofit, got one of these no-bid contracts, and they have called We. I can't remember what the contract was for them to do, but one of the things that We has done in the, you know, months leading up to them getting this no-bid contract was give these extremely well-paid speaking engagements. Like they paid Justin Trudeau and a lot of members of Justin Trudeau's family extremely generous speaking fees to come and talk at different We charity events. And then they get this no-bid contract. So it's turned into a full-blown scandal because, like, basically it's like, oh, the Liberal Party is doing a corruption. They're literally, like, bribing Justin Trudeau into getting a nice contract for themselves. And the Liberal Party won the last election, but got fewer votes than the Conservatives because of first past the post. And but they're in a minority government, which means that while they are the biggest party, they make up less than half of all of the seats, which means that if all of the other parties got together and did a vote of non-confidence, then they would push through they could push through another election out of nowhere. Which now, I think the reason why the resignation happened is because the Bloc Québécois has threatened to do that. Although right now the issue is that the Conservative Party is choosing a new leader, and until they figure out which lobbyist from the oil industry they want to have be their champion, they're probably not going to be on board. And you would need to get the Conservative Party on board in order to have a vote of non-confidence in the government to lead to an election. So things are getting heated and bad, and instead of challenge this, they basically Trudeau basically blamed this on Bill Morneau, who was the finance minister, and he resigned yesterday. And now, instead of having to deal with the We Charity scandal in Parliament for the next few months, he decided to just prorogue Parliament for I think 4 weeks or something like that. So now there's just going to be no government for 4 weeks. Like, we're just not going to have anybody meet in session to pass laws or do anything, which means that like important legislation that has to do with like responding to COVID-19 is going to get delayed because Justin Trudeau doesn't want to talk about the We Charity scandal, which is rich because this was a thing that Stephen Harper did a couple of times while he was prime minister, our conservative prime minister who we had before Trudeau. And Trudeau was one of the people who was out in the street protesting during the prorogation crisis of the last one anyway. And now he's doing one of his own for like almost the same reason. And it's just like, oh God. The Liberal and Conservative parties are both just so hopelessly corrupt. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it's also, it's funny because like the Conservatives are trying to make hay out of this corruption crisis when like they're literally choosing a new leader because their last leader was using party funds to send his kids to private school. So like, yeah. So Canada's having a little bit of a political crisis right now at the federal level, and that's fun. What's it called? Ontario is a bit different because they're, we've got a conservative government that's pretty much locked down until 2022, so all this is like, it's a majority government. There's no chance of a snap election, so it's just going to be like, Doug Ford working his way through. So yeah. And yeah, this is not even Trudeau's first corruption scandal, because he had his other one where he was basically he basically asked his attorney general to let a corporation get away with crimes because he wanted to preserve jobs in Quebec so that he would do better in Quebec in the election in 2019. And when he got cornered on that, he basically blamed it on his finance minister, on his attorney general, who also happened to be like the first Indigenous woman in cabinet, and she ended up leaving the party over it, and two people left, and so Justin Trudeau, who was kind of like the woke bae guy, who was like, I'm gonna have this 50-50 cabinet of men and women because it's 2015. And yet he forced two women out of his cabinet so that he could let Quebec just let this corporation called SNC Lavalin just like do crimes, One of my problems with the definition of anarchy is libs will just say, well, I think having a centralized government is a justified hierarchy. Okay. I mean, I disagree. And there's been a lot of work to show that you could probably organize a lot of things in society without needing a state. And that maybe the things that we need a state to organize, centralize around, are not things that we really need and are things that are actively making our lives worse. But that's just me. The video where the trans woman is talking about her issues with living in a communal homeless shelter is framed as a response to Vosh. Okay. What would you say if someone asked you to explain the class conflict in pre-feudalism societies like ancient Rome or Egypt? Explain the class conflict. I don't know much about Rome and Egypt, to be honest, so I can't really speak anything to how they were structured. But, yeah. They were primarily agricultural economies where there was a working class of peasant farmers and there was an elite class that profited off of them, whether they were slaves or whether they were peasants or whatever. Would it be possible to do left-wing shock therapy? I already answered that one. Did Canada have a German diaspora and Nazi party from 1930 to 1945? I mean, I think we did, but I don't think it was like as prominent as it was in other countries. But I'm sure somebody else will know better than I would. I'm not like super good at Canadian history, so. May I ask what you think of my nickname, Tristan? Sarkon of ACAB? It's kind of funny. It's a little bit funny. Telegram has channels you can follow and chat in, I believe. I'm not a member, but Tony Robinson had 5,000 followers at least in 2019. Okay. Jack Churchill was a British soldier in World War II who fought with a sword and longbow carrying bagpipes into battle. Oh dear. Let's see. Texas is not in play. They said that about Florida. Florida is red and Texas is red. I would push back against that. Florida has been a swing state for a long time. It has a sizable Latinx population, and it does have a liberal section of it. Like, Florida has gone Democrat several times. It went Democrat in 2008, and it is like, it is every time that even if the Republicans do win, it always is close. Like, the Democrats have a fairly well established political machine in Florida that they still use to win the occasional election. So it's not that out of place. Texas, the Democrats have been working on, because Texas is having a demographic shift where their Latinx population, mixed with the fact that the urban centers of Texas are becoming more full of liberal-leaning professionals, that is resulting in Texas potentially leaning towards becoming at least a battleground state where the Democrats could, if they invested enough electoral resources, could push the state over the hump. Whether they're there yet, I mean, it's a long-term project, and they've been saying for like a decade that any day now, any election now, there's going to be a new, it's going to be a new one. There's going to be a thing. It's going to change, and all of a sudden, everything's going to be better. But it's always like, over the next hill type thing. And there are people who are much smarter than me that think that have been saying that Trump's sort of dip that was brought about by COVID-19 has sort of invigorated the base in Texas, and that Texas may actually end up, even though Texas hasn't gone blue since like the 70s, maybe even the 60s, that it might again. They might, because like there's the polls are showing that it could happen if the Democrats are organized enough in that state. But that's tough to do because it's a very big state with a lot of people, and the Democrats have to build quite a large infrastructure to be able to mobilize enough of a vote for them to take it. But it's not like Mississippi. Like, it's not like a safe Republican state. Like, it very well could go to the Democrats if, like, you know, the winds blow right in the next election. And right now, Donald Trump is losing pretty damn hard on a lot of fronts, and so Texas could be a thing that he surprisingly loses in. And, like, sure, that would be a huge defeat for the Republicans, because that Texas is like one of the, I think it's like the third largest state for electoral college votes, and if they lose it as like a reliable Republican state, then that makes their pathway to the presidency a lot more difficult going forward, because that means the Democrats have 3 of the top 3 states by the electoral college vote. But Tristan, the Liberal Party is good. Ed the frickin' Sock said so, and that's a legit source of information according to Twitter liberals. Oh god. Fucking Ed the Sock. I didn't know Ed the Sock was still a thing that was happening. Thank you for the $5 super chat, by the way, Matt. The other day, the Lib Law podcasters talked about the possibility of Trump refusing to leave power. The main host said that he believes that even the Supreme Court would never interpret the Constitution to mean something it blatantly doesn't. How confident are you in that? I mean, I'm confident that the Supreme Court probably won't like decide that Donald Trump can just be president forever or whatever if he loses the election. But I do think that if Donald Trump can get the military on his side, that it doesn't really matter what the Supreme Court says. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Biden is a life-termer in government, you know, about refusing to leave. Let's see. Yeah, I think now I'm going to want to read the Earthsea series now that I've read The Dispossessed, or I'm reading The Dispossessed. I'm still working through it. What would you say to someone claiming Biden's platform is the most progressive in American history? I've heard a few libs claiming that, and I think they might be right, but only because modern Dems are bad on economic stuff and old school Dems are very bad on social stuff. All right, I'm going to answer that question, but first I'm going to actually take a quick break and go to the washroom. Then I will come back and I will answer that question, because that will take a little bit of doing. And I've been looking for an excuse to take a quick break, so let's do this. everybody. Thank you for being so patient. I am back. Hi. So the discussion, I want to mention while I'm at it that I got a new cell phone today. So that's exciting. I have to get a new case for it, but it's so much better than the one I had before. So this is it. Hi. This is it's a Galaxy S20, and I'm like, oh man. Thank you, Kudo, for letting me put myself back into serfdom so that I can get a nice new shiny phone. Because my old one's battery was dying really fast, and I couldn't. It's what's it called? USB-C port was getting kind of worn out, and so it was getting unplugged easily, which is bad. All right. What? If I heard something. But no, I doubt that. This one unlocks with my face, which is really weird. Okay. Good stuff, good stuff. Alright, let's not get distracted by shiny new phone. Tristan the Surfs would be interesting. I've been on the Surfs a couple times. There's a stream I think they're doing that I'm going to participate in. Okay, so there is this claim that's going around that says that Joe Biden is the most progressive president since FDR, and I've been on the thing saying that that's not true in a lot of ways. So first of all, you have to go into the actions that he has pushed forward. Like, sure, he's going to be the most hashtag woke, possibly the most hashtag woke president. Maybe, I don't even know if he'd be as progressive as Barack Obama, but the big problem is that Joe Biden's been in politics since the late 70s, and we have a pretty good we have a pretty good record of Joe Biden being on the forefront of reactionary backlashes and conservative, being on the conservative side of the Democratic Party for pretty much his entire career. And he's only gone through this like quick rebrand just because he knows that if he doesn't act hashtag woke enough now, that he won't get the support of a certain wing of the Democratic Party. And sure, that'd be great. It'd be lovely. But his I don't know, to call the person who is like one of the architects of mass incarceration in America, who still supports legalized slavery through the prison industrial complex, who is still for basically prohibition on a completely harmless substance like cannabis to make sure that those slaves will be predominantly people of color. The fact that he is still refusing to put in a healthcare program that is extremely popular in his own base. Those don't seem like the most progressive president in since FDR to me. Or if it is a pretty low bar to hit because there haven't been really any progressive presidents. I wouldn't say, though, that him having all of these anti-redistributive policies and being on record multiple times saying that he wants to privatize Social Security would be, progressive to the point that it would outshine LBJ and stuff in my mind. So that's there's that. Plus, I don't know, I still see a pretty high chance that actually even almost that he's still gonna keep the war on terror going. He's still gonna keep the forever militarization of the planet. I don't know the part where Joe Biden is this progressive hero everyone's talking about. People are gonna vote for him, and I don't if I was in America, I probably would too. But just everybody knows that they're doing it because the Democratic Party is a psychotic right-wing institution that did basically like voter suppression and electoral manipulation in order to force Joe Biden to be the candidate, despite the fact that nobody really liked him. And like, I feel like, yeah, we have, like, people are going to vote for him mostly because they feel like they have to and they don't have any other choice. And because, like, you know, the future of American democracy is sort of, you know, in the balance right now. But like, don't like try to turn around and pretend that people have any like legitimate reason to be excited for Joe Biden's presidency. It's going to be the most right-wing Democratic president. It's probably going to be fairly similar on economic issues to like the George Bush presidency, like the George Bush Jr. presidency. He's this election, the Trump saga, if it's going to have a long-running effect on the Democratic Party, is going to be the insertion of a bunch of neocons out of the Republican Party and into the Democratic Party, which means that it's much more likely that the Democrats are going to be more hawkish on war stuff. They're going to be much more pro-Israel. They're going to probably invade more countries, because now people like, you know, you've got people supporting Biden like Bill Kristol and like the hell's her name, Jacqueline Rubin or whatever. These like people who were like ardent like parts of the neocon project with like George Bush Jr. and stuff like that. And if the Republican Party is going to turn into straight up like insular reactionaries, the neocons are going to move to the Democrats, and the Democrats are probably going to become more imperialistic and right wing. And his campaign is literally an appeal to the right. His entire campaign strategy, like every single aspect you can tell, is him trying to make an appeal to moderate Republicans to come over to his side for this election. Which is like, if there's any sign, like John Kasich speaking at the DNC, if that's not like a very big sign that this is not a progressive president, I don't know what is. How long would it take climate change to end if every human on Earth died? Probably a few centuries. Because right now we have to deal with the fact that there are positive feedback loops that are going to set a lot of things off. And so we're probably going to, like, it's going to get worse before it gets better. That's for sure. But it wouldn't reverse for like several hundred years for sure. The generation of my grandfather had World War II. If Corona is the biggest crisis of my generation, I will take it. Okay. Whatever you say there, bud. How are Critical Role comics? Would you recommend them for people who aren't into the Critical Role stream? They're good. They're fine. They're clever. If you like comics, if you like high fantasy, like there's two, like they've had 2 volumes come out now, and Critical Role Volume 1 is very much like a, you know, coming together story about but it's still like, if I remember correctly, it still has a very like self-contained narrative, that because basically what happened in Critical Role is that the Critical Role like show, the D&D show, started when they were about level 5. So it started, I think, about like a year or 2 already into the campaign. So the characters were already established and around. So what this comic is supposed to be is the characters is like the beginning of the campaign. They're taking the stories of the game before it went on, turned into a show, and turning that into a comic book series. And so the first volume is about them all meeting each other. So it's about their like level 1 adventure or whatever. So you go with that. It's going well. I enjoyed it. It was funny. It was, well, like the art is really good. So I mean, I had a good time reading Vox Machina Origins. And Volume 2 came out a while back, but Volume 2, like the issues of Volume 2 came out a while back, but like Volume 2, the collected edition, came out today, and I haven't read it yet. It's on my list of books to read, but I have several books I'm supposed to be reading, so, you know, we'll get there. What do you think of the Wuhan water park party without masks or so? I don't know anything about that. Still remember the whole hero shooter MOBA era. RIP Gigantic. One of my fave games from that time and overall TBH. Man, the period of gaming I really miss was when MMOs were king. Those are fun games, but I know that I'm not in a phase of my life where I can play an MMO like I want to, so maybe it's for the best that it isn't happening. But like video game, there isn't really like we're kind of at peak battle royale game, right? And auto chess was supposed to be like the next like huge thing that took over everything, but even that is sort of like limited in its scope. So like there's no like, there doesn't seem to be any like video games that are like every studio has to make its own version of the same game right now, which is, you know, it is what it is. But I don't know. Like, what's it called? I've got video games coming out that I'm excited for. I won't lie. I enjoy a video game every once in a while, though I haven't been able to play them all that much lately. But this fall, like, we are 2 weeks to the day from Crusader Kings 3 coming out, which I'm pretty excited for. And then we've got, supposedly, we're supposed to be getting Baldur's Gate 3 in the not too distant future, or at least in like early access or something. Like it's like some sort of progress on Baldur's Gate 3 is supposed to be made soon. And then there's also, on top of those two games, there's also like the World of Warcraft expansion, which is a game that I like regularly like abandoned and then come back to at various times depending upon how desperate I am for a game to play while I'm chilling out and listening to podcasts. And so, you know, the Shadowlands thing is going to come out and I'll probably end up playing it. I'll end up buying it and playing it. So that's what I'm into right now. But we'll see what the future has to hold. You said we, humanity, have been in worse situations in the past. Has there ever been a time where we were fucking up so badly it threatened to end all life on Earth? Maybe not that much, but I was thinking more about the pandemic. Climate change is a fairly big disaster, that is for sure. I don't know how to handle that one for sure. But I know that it's not super productive to basically give in to hopelessness about it. Because the thing about climate change is that it is bad, and it is something we need to deal with. It's apocalyptic, but it isn't like, it won't like wipe out all life on Earth. And it's one of those things where like the sooner we can solve it, the less bad it's going to be. But like to me that means that there's no real reason to be a doomer and like say like just like give up and not get involved at all, because even if we intervene too late, we can stop some of the worst things from happening still. Wasn't the Cold War? And yeah, there was the Cold War. There was the nuclear threat. All right. You know how libs, low libs claimed that downloading free music would make it impossible for musicians to make a living. Do you think they'd claim free replicated food would make it impossible for chefs to make a living? That's a pretty good example of like, yeah, that's an example of the kind of thing that they would say, for sure. But like, damn, if there's a replicator that was like, you can have steak that Gordon Ramsay cooked every single night, like, that'd be nice. I want a replicator so bad. It's such like it's like straight up like fantasy technology, but goddamn. Oh man, talking about Nanaimo bars, good stuff. It's the thing my mom always gets for Christmas. Which will be fun because this year, because the border is shut down, it's very likely that I'll be seeing my parents for Christmas, which I don't normally do. Most of the time we go to my in-laws for Christmas because they're more religious and they make a bigger deal out of it. And so normally we go to the States and I get to spend some time with my cool-ass nephew and stuff, but I don't think we're going to be able to this year. And that means that we're probably going to do Christmas with my family, which I haven't done since, like, I don't know, probably since 2015. No, 2015 we did at home. So, yeah, 2015. Is Green Party good? Here they are centrist opportunities as far as I can tell. Our Green Party is, so Matt's, honestly, when it comes to asking questions about Canada, Matt Lipton seems like he's got better answers than I do, so. If Canada, the Greens, after the Liberal with the NDP, at least this election cycle. Yeah, the Green Party is a little mercurial. That's the thing about the Canadian Green Party, is that they, like, depending upon who you ask and how you weigh different policies, the Green Party can sometimes go anywhere from being framed as more left-wing than the NDP to an almost center-right party. And it has more to do with the fact that the Green Party's charter says that MPs and like representatives of the Green Party, besides environmentalism, are supposed to more focus on the interests of their constituencies. And they've also been, since they're such a small party, they are much more beholden to like the sort of political instincts of their party leader. And so like their last party leader, who resigned not too long ago, was Elizabeth May. And Elizabeth May is just a little idiosyncratic when it comes to politics. She has some right-wing beliefs. She has some left-wing beliefs. She has some weird beliefs that like a lot of Canadians don't like they're like are not even like thinking about. Like she's an immigrant from the United States and has a little bit more of an anti-abortion stance than is allowed in Canadian politics. So she just like avoids the pro-choice issue for the most part. But like, because in Canada, it would be considered ridiculous to say that you're anti-abortion. At least in, if you want to get elected, it would be really weird to say that you're anti-abortion. And if you are, you would say it fairly quietly and only to constituents that you know would support it. Because in Canada, being there's this term that like that being socially conservative is considered very, very bad. And so that's why like our conservative party for the longest time was called the Progressive Conservatives, because they wanted to make an emphasis that they were not socially conservative, they were just economically conservative. And our conservatives, while they're getting more into anti-immigrant and racism stuff, before that they were like budget hawks. That was like their main thing, is they would always just complain that liberals spend too much money. Biden dies in March and the virus doesn't happen until a year later. What left-wing policies do you want President Bernie to push through with a left-wing shock therapy? A Medicare for all. Like, that is like the number one thing that the United States would like. If they were to implement a Medicare for all program, that would be one of the biggest positive changes to to the United States, that would like make positive changes and ripple effects through a bunch of things, and would disproportionately help people of color and people who are struggling. So that would be the big one. Forgiving, I feel like forgiving student loan debt would probably be easier to do than Medicare for all, and that would also basically pull the chain off of an entire generation of people who have been held back by these punitive loans. So those two things are the big ones. And I would really like to tamp down on the American imperialism, but you know, that was never a thing that we were really expecting out of Bernie anyway, which is sad. That was a place where he was still sorely lacking his foreign policy stuff. Who's more progressive, Stephen Harper or Barack Obama? Depends upon what. Barack Obama was definitely to the right of Stephen Harper when it comes to like healthcare. Like Stephen Harper supported a Medicare for all system, while Barack Obama couldn't even commit to a public option. But Stephen Harper was way more likely than Barack Obama to like fuck over poor people and do austerity politics. So depends. It's a very different political culture, obviously. If all Canadians are like Tristan, they deserve the reputation of politeness and humility. What would the Republicans do if they permanently lost a state they need to have a shot? They would probably, honestly, if they lost Texas in a big way, the lesson they would probably take away from it is that they're going to have to find some way to fight the like basically, if the Republicans lost Texas in an election, their response would, if they were intelligent, and there are some smart politics people in the Republican Party, is that they would probably have to like start to actively like think that like maybe this like doubling down on white anxiety and white supremacy is like the thing that we need to push back against, and they would need to they would probably see it as a sign to try to soften their position on immigration and become more open to the Latinx community, which is one that they've been trying to open up the doors with for a long time, because the Latinx community is fairly young, fairly religious, and much more socially conservative than other groups by and large. This is a generalization, obviously. So that means that like the Republicans would probably go through with the plan that they were trying to do when they were fielding candidates for president in 2016, like Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio, which is try to send the message that the Republican Party is much more open to Hispanics people. That's like my thing. Or that's what I would think. Because that was their plan before Trump basically ruined it. What would the Democrats do if they gain enough blue states that they can pretty confident that they'll win no matter how neoliberal they go? They'll do what every country that only has one political party, doesn't have to worry about elections anymore, would do. They just become super fucking corrupt. Like it happened in South Africa with the ANC. It happened with Canada and the Liberal Party. It's any country where you have one political party that dominates unchallenged for a long period of time, you start to get a pretty like widespread growing sense of corruption within the ranks. Let's see. Do you think Trump would ever be able to get the military on side? Whenever that issue comes up, people point out that following legitimate authority is very heavily drilled into military personnel. Do you think Trump will ever be able to get the military on side? It really depends upon who is in charge of the military. Like my guess is that the Joint Chiefs of Staff in a contested election situation would have some very important decisions to make. And depending upon how things go, there might be different sections of the military that go different ways, and you end up with like a Spanish Civil War situation. So I think that it would really be up to the people in charge. It basically comes down to whether or not they serve the person or the office. And I don't know how many Joint Chiefs of the U.S. military are more loyal to Donald Trump, the person, than they are to, like, the United States as a concept. Because they're not political appointments. They are, like, it's a job. What do you know about planned obsolescence? I mean, it's a thing that is much more... it's a thing that's become much more of a thing in the mid-20th century as cheap plastic became a widespread thing. It was harder to make planned obsolescence and disposable objects before plastic. Plastic was the way that made you be able to make lots of stuff and lots of shitty stuff for cheap. And so cheap that it was cheaper to make that and replace it over and over again rather than just use a, high quality object. There's a protest outside the DNC conventions being live streamed on YouTube. How do you protest outside of a virtual convention? Hey, thank you for the 420.
Howdy, comrades.
Howdy, comrades. Thank you so much, Wizard's Bread Book. Thank you for the 420 bits. Nice. You guys are great. Tristan's history videos are better written than most of the Surf's history videos I've watched. You guys I don't know if it's come out yet, but I didn't provide a voice for it or anything like that, but I did have Lance come to me the other day and ask me to fact check part of his video. So I did do that in a video on tankies. I don't think it's out yet, but that's a thing that I did participate in to some extent. What do you think of Harris's chances in 2024? Really, it's hard to speculate at that point. I have no idea what I talk a little bit in my upcoming video about what post-Trump might look like. But right now, Trump has such like a vice grip over the political conversation that I don't know what extent that's going to carry over to his post-presidency if he loses. And I don't know where that's going to go in regards to, does Trump start a media network that becomes really influential? Does Trump just, retire and get out of politics? Does Trump try to run again in 2024? There's so many, questions to ask there and also, look at this election. This election's being defined by a pandemic that didn't even exist this time last year. We really don't know what an election in 4 years is going to look like. That's for sure. Or what even her role in a Biden administration would be. I don't know if Biden is going to give her a lot of space to flex her power. I don't know if she's going to get a little bit. I don't know if she's going to be a Dick Cheney or if she's going to be a vice president that doesn't do anything at all. We really don't know. We have no clue. But we'll see what happens. And also, I don't know who the Republicans field. Do you know anything about the situation in Mali? No, I don't. How should we respond to libs who say maybe Biden won't fulfill his platform and promises, but no president does? You think Bernie would have done everything he was running on? No, but like all of Biden's promises are threats. Like Biden's are like, we're not going to do this, and we're not going to do this, and we're going to make this worse, and we're going to like in Biden's case, I hope he does none of his platform, because all his like plans are to basically make things worse. While like Bernie's plan, like the thing about Bernie's plan is, even if he just pushed through like one or two of the things he wanted to do, I'd be happy. I don't know where this like weird liberal idea that like Bernie's supporters will only be happy if literally everything that he wants goes through. It's about theory of change. It's about like his policy positions, and like knowing that he has the instincts of wanting the things that we want. Whether or not his big project, which would probably have ended up being Medicare for all, like if he could have just gotten that through, that would have been enough. That would have been enough to be like, to make him the Tommy Douglas of American history. That would have been enough for one person and for one presidency to change on a lot of things. But even if he did a few things, even if he did a second thing, it would be like, this would just be historic legislation. At least Canada actually has a left wing. I mean, kinda. Did Canada have anti-mask movements yet? Yeah, it's not as big as in America, but yeah, we have had. There have been some anti-mask protests. And you have groups like the one that I used to work for, which are like, we should promote education rather than mandating masks. And I'm like, oh boy, I would have had some serious ethical issues if I was there now. But I haven't worked there in like a year, so it's a different thing. Almost the only games I'm interested in now are Nintendo ones. I don't even know of any new Nintendo games coming out. I have a Switch, I just haven't. It's mostly Kelly's. I haven't really played much with it. Baldur's Gate 3 heads into early access September 30th. Cool. I'll probably end up getting it then. It looks like a pretty fun game. I like Dungeons & Dragons. I like 5th edition. A game that is an online platform for D&D 5th edition sounds pretty good to me. I'm not super into the fact that it only goes up to level 10 apparently, but my guess is that somebody can make a mod that makes it go up to level 20. What I'm kind of excited for Baldur's Gate 3 is like, there's the story mode that I think will be pretty cool. But what I really want to see is the workshop and creating like people making more adventures and like game master mode and things like that. Like that's the Baldur's Gate 3 as a platform of having like a Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition-esque turn-based combat game could go in a lot of really cool directions, and I would love to play a little bit with that. I feel like we've been playing Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time and GTA 3 for a decade and a half now. Paradox made a new game based around our modern era, like 1995 to 2025. What would the main driver of the game be? Terrorism, climate change, COVID? Probably terrorism to make a game like theirs work. But that makes me realize that Paradox, oh man, I was so excited for, they were going to be making a Paradox game it was going to be the Cold War. It was going to be a 1945 to 1991 Paradox game on the Cold War, and it got scrapped, and it made me really sad. because I was like, ah, damn. I would love to see them try to do a Paradox game where the main focus of the game isn't painting the map. That's like the thing that I'm kind of like hoping to see, but who knows. Socialist pansexual. There's currently a socialist pansexual non-binary person running for the leadership of the Canadian Green Party. It's pretty cool. Let's see. Canadian politics is weird. This is true. Liberals and NDP spend too much. The Conservatives had two stances. Tristan. Oh, yes. So the worst thing going on in regards to abortion is the anti-abortion crowd are stealing progressive language, saying women are being pressured into abortions when they just want there to be a choice. Yeah. There is something to that. But still, like, yeah, like, social conservatism is still very, like, slow. And there is major issues in Canada when it comes to reproductive rights because abortions are still very hard to get in Canada. Like, not because they're, like, you know, there's, like, loops or, like, what's it called? Not as bad as in America, but, like, there's a lot of situations in which getting an abortion's hard just because clinics that will provide them are kind of far away and they take a while to get, which is something that needs to be dealt with. Like, for example, in the province of Prince Edward Island, you basically can't get an abortion on Prince Edward Island, so you have to cross over into New Brunswick to get one, which, you know, that's not how it should be. In a practical sense, is it possible to be economically conservative without being socially conservative? Yeah, you could. You don't hate anybody except for poor people. It seems very easy to not consider poor people in the same vein that you would consider like being anti-poor is different. Not bigoted in the same way that like being racist or sexist or homophobic is, because capitalism. Do you think America would have a more parliamentary system in the future? Maybe. I feel like the doors to third parties could open quite a bit if America ever got rid of the Electoral College for the presidency, but it still has a lot of institutional friction that keeps a two-party system. But I feel like the Electoral College is the biggest one that sort of keeps them out. Let's see. They're protesting outside the building where the thing is taking place. Alright. Cool. Good stuff. I don't think Trump will peacefully cede power, especially if the delay on the full popular vote. Yeah, I do. It is definitely a concern, for sure. I don't think he will concede an election, ever. And whether he just doesn't concede and he just leaves, or he doesn't concede and he, like, actually, like, holds out and we end up with, like, you know, the Secret Service having to escort the president out on January 20th is a different thing. Because he doesn't like to admit defeat, but he has been defeated before. And we'll have to figure out if, like, it'll be a situation where he decides to just not admit defeat, but then just quietly disappear. Or if he's going to be like, I'm actually going to stick with this and you can't stop me. Thoughts on the new Labour Party leader, Keir Starmer? Everything I hear about him is bad. So there you go. What's your favorite non-D&D tabletop game? I will say I've only I've only played a handful of non D&D tabletop games. The two that I played a campaign in something called The Sprawl, which is the Powered by Apocalypse cyberpunk system, and I played a short-lived campaign in God, what was the name of that? What's the name of that system? It's sort of a general RPG system. Shit. It's gonna come to me at some point. But Fate. I played a campaign in Fate, and that I thought was really fun. Also, I've tried my hand in Mythic, but I've never played like Mythic, the role-playing game. Just Mythic, the like solo RPG GM-less addition to any other D&D game. So I would probably say out of the ones I played, that I would say the one I liked the most was Fate. Fate can be really fun. You kind of have to treat it differently than other games because it's more like you are writers trying to figure out how something plays out rather than like you're like, you know, trying to win or whatever. But I think that the two I want to play the most are Worlds in Peril, which is a superhero powered by the Apocalypse game, but not the one for teenagers. And then there is another one called, I want to play a Star Trek Adventures RPG, but I haven't had a chance to get my hands on that yet because it's actually pretty hard to get a hold of and it's very expensive. So, yeah. Let's see. Question about Jackbox. You said Trivia Murder Party didn't stream well. Did any of others besides TKO and Quiplash not stream well either? I was wondering about that. I just don't. I only have the Party Pack 3. I think we did try playing the one where you play as like where you try to guess percentages, and people weren't so hot on that one either. And I would love the one that I would love to try and see. Like, there's another one I'd love to play, but it would require voice chat, and I don't know if that's a thing that I want to put what's it called? Put on the line, because I can't really control what people say. So yeah. I generally like most. I'm always taken aback when someone's like, "Oh, I didn't like that." Yeah. PI has an abortion clinic now. They got it a few years back. Well, that's good. That's good to hear. Still hard to get an abortion outside of major cities. Yeah, I can imagine if you live on a reserve, it's extremely hard, if not impossible, to get an abortion. Like if you live in one of those like fly-in communities, like in Iqaluit, or like, or if you live like in one of those places where the roads are only accessible when it's wintertime because cars drive on like frozen rivers and stuff like that. Something makes me think that those communities probably don't have access to reproductive rights, healthcare type stuff. Do you think the U.S. would be the same level of civil unrest of the 2016 election was between Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton? Probably to some extent, but I think Trump definitely ramped up the volume a little bit. So the answer, I guess, would be no. Are you close to up? I'm 4 minutes behind, so kind of. I guess I'm close to caught up. You can be both economically liberal and socially conservative. That is a thing that is common. Most like contemporary like conservatives don't particularly care about the budget. They just kind of posture about that, and they typically want to spend tons of money on advancing the interests of cishet white people. How to get into Hearts of Iron. Jackbox time. Yeah, I think it is Jackbox time. All right. Yeah, we are caught up to the chat, so I think it is time that we Jackbox away. So what we're going to do, for anyone who doesn't know, that whenever I get caught up with the chat, usually it's a bit later because, I don't know, I guess I've been answering questions fast tonight or something. But we play Jackbox games for the last hour or so, which is fun. So this is a game that anybody can participate in. You just need a browser or a phone or whatever. And what you do is you go to jackbox.tv, you put in a code, and we play games together. It's fun. You guys will like it, don't worry. We do have time for TKO. Maybe we should start with TKO because we haven't played it in so long. I'm thinking that might be our first stopover, which is where you design T-shirts. It's real fun. It's just trying to find the icon on my desktop. All right. So. Hey. Actually, I'm going to keep it on my camera thing because I always forget to put in the code and then I get lazy and slow and fuck it up. All right. Sargon, you should really stick around sometime and play some games with us. You'd probably have a good time. Alrighty. Let's get you guys access so you guys can join in. So there we go. The code is FZTD. And if you don't get in the first 8, you can still participate. You just can't draw. You get to vote, but you can't make stuff. So just need one more, and then we're good to start. And you can join any time, by the way, after we get the first 8. Just need one more. Come on, friends. I know one of you out there is gonna want to join and party with us. Get to design T-shirts. It's really fun. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to install anything. You just go to jackbox.tv and put in FZTD. Don't be shy. There we go. Let's do this.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to TKO. I am the tournament master. Unless you're with the Old Navy credit card people, in which case that guy moved, I think. I brought you to T-Shirt Island to fight, but don't forget to do a little shopping too. The shirts you create will be available in the gift shop, along with several copies of my autobiography, Master of My Own Tournament. Every epic tale starts somewhere. Yours begins here, at the training grounds. You will use your device to draw 3 drawings. Draw anything that pops into that little head of yours. If nothing pops, just hit the suggestion button. Get your drawing fingers wiggling. Friends. It's time to draw.
Gosh, I forgot how to draw things.
If you didn't qualify for the tournament, don't fret. Simply join the audience to submit your suggestions and vote on your favorite shirts.
don't think I've played TKO since I moved. I think it's been over a month.
Make haste before time runs out.
Look at that rule.
Excellent. This time, show me something different. Remember to use the suggestion button if you need an idea. Drawing 2, begin.
I have played this game with Thought Slime, and I played it in a context where it wasn't streamed, and he did think of some pretty funny shit. He did draw some funny shit. I probably have some somewhere. I think I saved a couple of them on my computer somewhere.
Last drawing, let's get weird with it. Begin.
I bet you read that question about labor vouchers tomorrow. I'm probably going to hear Thomas, the guy for the book list, respond to it.
Challenge complete. For your last exercise, you will write as many slogans or phrases as you can. Something short and snappy like you might see on a t-shirt. And don't give in to pride, use a suggestion if you need it. Go! I'm looking for like 3 or 4 from each of you. Does that seem doable? Just give it a shot. Only seconds remain. Oh yes, this is gonna be good. Your training is complete. Now point your eyes at your device. Select one drawing and one slogan to create the perfect t-shirt combination. And I do mean perfect.
yesterday the music was too loud. I said, it should be fun. So I can turn my mic up a little bit. Yeah, I turned the gain down on my mic to get a better quality sound out of it. Try to fix that a little bit.
Lovely. Time for action. Let the tournament begin.
Alright, hopefully that'll work.
Gauntlet 1.
Is this ridiculously loud now?
Versus... fight. And by fight, I mean enter your votes on your devices. Versus...
yeah, friends.
attack.
I had to record some lines for a very exciting cameo that I get to do in a future video that I'm not going to tell you guys about yet. But it's been really fun. I got to do it. It took me a while. I did a lot of acting today.
Versus...
Thank you for using my no worries.
engage in an altercation.
Oh my god.
Versus... fight.
Hey, let's get some Phoebes in chat. Phoebe's here. Hey, girl. Hey, sweetheart.
A new challenger appears. Engage one another in violence.
Symbol of anarcho-Christmasism. Phoebe's a very sweet little girl.
Versus...
Look, you guys
attack.
probably saw her more at the old place, which is a little sad. I used to ever have a bed on my desk, but I decided I liked having a desk more than having a cat bed always available to Phoebe that she never uses. But it doesn't during streams. She doesn't like join. She just, you know, chill out on the table more.
A new challenger appears. Fight. Winners.
I'm good with
I
that
need a
turnout.
breather. Let's take a training break. Use your devices to enter one new drawing and as many new slogans as you wish. Hey, try not to screw this up, okay? Go!
Alright.
Those of you watching the tournament don't have to wait another 100 years to get in on the fun. Join the audience to submit suggestions and affect the game. Make haste before time runs out. Begin writing. That time is not for decoration. Finish quickly.
Alrighty.
The second gauntlet is at hand, and the ethereal algebra
this
of
goes.
chance has redistributed your drawings and slogans. Dream up something special.
How's everybody in the chat doing? Very easy to
Feel good
I
about
have
that,
been not paying attention to the
Well,
DMC
we'll see.
convention at all.
Gauntlet 2. Versus 5.
That's a pretty fun t-shirt. Not gonna lie.
Versus Battle. Versus Battle.
My.
A new challenger appears. Attack! A new challenger appears.
Let's do this.
I want you to fight.
Wet ass P-word. Makes that pullout game weak. P-word being female genitalia. But it gets considerably more vulgar.
A new challenger appears. Battle!
Damn close.
Versus... fight!
Oh shit.
Winner!
All right.
We are poised to enter the final gauntlet. Only the greatest T-shirts from the previous rounds are eligible. Prepare to vote one last time.
You're just saying this sucked because you didn't get to the end.
Versus...
Your sole metric for a good game is
fight
if you
each
win.
other. Versus... fight.
That's a truly great shirt.
We have a champion. It's
Well
shirts
done,
like
Tuesday.
this one that remind me why I do what I do. It's because of the cool shirts.
All right. One thing I can say. Oh, there's apparently a new party pack. I gotta see what's in that. I gotta check that out at some point. Trivia Murder Party 2. Dictorium. Comedy Contest Joke Boat, and the Offbeat Personality Test Role Models. You know what? There is one I want to try playing, which is the rapping robots one. Should probably get that at some point. All right, let's do Quiplash, and I have a thing to show you actually. So I actually saved. Somebody said it'd be cool to play TKO with Thought Slime, and I did. And I have actually, what's it called? I actually got. I saved 6 T-shirts from that game, just so that you guys can see a little bit of what it was like. So these are the ones that we did from when I played with a group of friends, but Matt was one of them. So that was one of them. Just a second, I gotta open it with a better program. Yeah, this is the second one. Then the third one was this. So I drew this. This is pretty fun. Another really good one here. And this one. And then the last one. So that was, if you want a little taste of what it was like. Alright. Let's get to the quiplash going. So BHBJ, let's do this, guys.
Hey!
2 more. Let's do it. All right, 1 more. Come on, friends. Yeah. All right, let's get this.
Schmitty's my name, Quiplash is my game. And it's your game, assuming you paid for it. Just an FYI, I'm claiming all of you as dependents on my taxes. And remember, anyone who wandered in late can use that room code to join the audience and affect the game. This is round 1. You'll see 2 prompts on your device. Answer them any way you want. Each answer will go up against someone else's answer, and everyone will vote on which they
Jackbox
like
one night
most.
because it
It's
was a
simple.
regular D&D
You score
night,
based
but,
on the percentage of players
two
who like
people
your answer.
couldn't connect,
Plus,
their
there are
internet was
winners'
out, and
bonuses at
so
stake. Go!
We did Jackbox night instead.
Attention audience, while you wait for these annoyingly slow players, why not try the audience play along?
Hey, Tom Fowler in space, thank you for following. Much appreciated. Welcome to the Orc Gang.
almost out of time. Use the safety quip button if you have to. Okay, I hope you all made me proud. Up first, you know you found your soulmate when you look them in the eye and they say blank. Okay, voting time. Pick your favorite.
You're a big fan? Well, that's awesome, Batmain710. Thank you. Unless you're just, like, literally a large fan. Like, as in a device for blowing air. Oh, no, that joke didn't pan out. I'm sorry. I have Joe Biden brain. It's too late in the evening.
Next on deck, when confronted by a mountain lion, stay calm, stand as tall as possible, and blank. And vote. Okay, next one. The greatest part about having lots and lots of back hair.
Oh boy.
Get to voting. Moving on.
Batman's excited.
A terrible thing to tell your kid when the dog dies. Vote on your devices.
Damn. Get owned.
Next, something you wouldn't expect to hear from a Subway sandwich artist.
We'll click
Put in your
Whiplash again
votes.
next. We'll see how much time we have when this thing's done. It might be like uncomfortably close to the end of the stream that I might just end a little bit early. Let's see what the time looks like.
Next one, women never date a guy who blank. Vote away.
I love Subway. Aw.
Next up, something you might find in George W. Bush's living room. It's voting time.
Oh boy, let's see how this goes. Fucking get owned me. Holy shit.
And next is, forget carpooling. They should build a special driving lane just for blank.
Mystery Machine or
Okay, vote. That's the end of round 1. Let's take a look at the scores.
Goddamn.
Now round 2, where all points and bonuses are doubled. Oh, the drama.
Man, thanks, Matt. You're gonna make me really want sweet tarts now, and I don't think I've seen sweet tarts in like forever.
While the players enter their quips, audience members can try the audience play-along on their devices. Clock's running out. Pick fast or use a safety quip. Let's take a look.
Aardvark, isn't it
Prompt
like
number 1 is
anteater
the
type
title of a
thing?
video game that would have been huge in the 1800s. Okay, use your device to pick your favorite. Coming up next, a rule every gardener eventually learns: never blank the cabbage. Vote now.
Don't fuck the cabbage is pretty good.
Next in the hopper, if you really listen hard, you'll hear a seashell say this. Ready, set, vote. And next, a sign your parents may have sheltered you as a kid.
Oh boy. Default, default, default.
Moving on, spell out the sound a fish hitting a person in the face makes. Time to vote. Your next prompt is the most inappropriate song to be air drumming to.
Oh my.
Vote now. Next prompt. Something an overexcited fan would yell at a tense dog show. Get to voting.
Yep, vulgar wins. I'm not proud of that
one. Next on the list, a good name for a pet aardvark. We've reached the end of round 2. Let's see what happened.
What's up, John Brooks? It gets significantly more vulgar. Yeah, good one.
It's round 3, the last
Let's
lap.
do this.
I've got one prompt left, and you're all getting it. Complete this word lash
This is
task.
the last game. I'm sorry, friend. This was the last game, yeah. We're getting close to 10 o'clock, which is when I turn off the stream, and this is probably going to go until 9:50 something, and I might just end it a couple minutes early, because life. Time you stream on Fridays? I stream from 2 to 5.
Okay, soak it in. It's round 3, so you've got 3 medals to award. A gold, a silver, and a bronze. Make your picks.
I would love to see you
All
come
right,
by on,
let's see who earned
React
those
stream
medals.
Friday,
Bronze. Bring out the silver. And now the gold. Great. Let me just turn those medals into points for you.
You tried to go meta? I voted for you.
That's it. Let's take a look at the final scores.
Hey! Surprise in the last round there. Woo. That default win really put me over the top. Yeah, it's always rigged when I win. That's part of the rules of the game. All right, everybody. It is a little bit early, but you know what? It's the end of the night. I think I'm, well on my way to being ready to take a nice little naparoonie. And by that I mean spend another hour working on my videos, doing more work, and then possibly going to sleep. So, for everybody on Twitch, we're going to go and find someone cool to visit. Let's go see who's no one really doing politicsy stuff. So my friend Dimitri's playing Counter-Strike. So let's go pay him a visit. I haven't bothered him in a while. But for everybody else, I'll be back on Friday. I hope to see you guys soon. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves and take care of each other, because we all need each other. We should all be friends. Good night.